Hello, everyone. This is Dennis here with Collider Games. I'm with
Marc Fernandez.
And we're here to talk about one of the biggest games in the video game industry every year, Madden 19.
Yeah. Over 110 million copies sold.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. We on our last podcast,
all time.
Me, Dorian, and Joey, we kind of brought up the fact that Madden is such a juggernaut, but at the same time, like someone like myself does not purchase a copy every year.
Right. I've never missed a year since the very, very, very first one that I bought on my PC 386 AT, 33 megahertz, 100 megabyte hard drive, Madden. It was just called John Madden Football. And back then, the champion was actually a game called Joe Montana Football on the PC. But yeah, I've literally have bought every single one, even those dark days when they were really only on the Nintendo. And like, yeah, there's some dark days for Madden, but yes. And there's been some dark days recently, but yeah, I have owned every single Madden.
So let's delve deeply into kind of what's new in this game. What's making you come back year after year? What are some of the new features that they didn't have last year?
Well, none.
None.
It's the same game. It's the same game as last year. Obviously, there's tweaks, there's changes, there's modifications, there's things to it, but it's the same. Like, let me think it through. So you have all the quick game stuff is the same. You have Madden Ultimate Team, which is obviously the bright, shining light of Madden franchise, and their story mode, which is called, I think it's called Longshot. Yeah, so it's the same thing. And like, actually, Longshot is probably my biggest beef with the game because, so Madden 19, but Antonio Brown is on the cover of Madden. So hopefully there's no Madden curse for him. There wasn't a Madden curse for Brady. I mean, Brady last year, MVP of the league, a few plays away from winning the Super Bowl. He took the Madden curse and told it where it can go. So yeah, so Antonio Brown on the cover. If you buy the Hall of Fame edition, you get Terrell Owens on the cover.
But he's in his Cowboys uniform instead of Niners. That's kind of a slap in the face to at least Niners fans.
Sure. And I do believe that that his Niner tenure was way longer, obviously, than his Cowboy tenure. I hear you, and you're right. Like, when I think of T.O., it's funny, but when I think of T.O., I do think of him maybe more in an Eagles uniform.
Well, I mean, he made the Super Bowl.
But more importantly, the cover artist of NFL 2K5, right, which is the last game that another company did besides EA, and probably the greatest football game ever made. I think this is widely recognized as the greatest football game ever made, and I'll go into that in a second as to why I think it is. But T.O. was on the cover of that, wearing a Eagles uniform. You know, so it's funny. I always think of him as an Eagle, even though obviously his time with the Cowboys and the Niners was longer and more interesting. But look, Madden 19. Why do I buy it every year? Because I have no choice. Let's just be real. I have no choice. You got to buy it. It's Madden, and Madden is like a holiday when it comes out. You know, like you block out like I was gonna say 4 hours. It's more like 4 days. And you play the hell out of it, you know, and you really, really go in there. And my dream for a football game, and I know I can't be alone in this, but my dream for a football game is that it's got to have a great franchise mode. You know, you want to be able to go in there and do the simulation of you being the manager, you being the coach, playing season after season after season, doing your rebuild. Like taking a team and taking it to like prominence and playing it on all Madden mode and like, you know, really get super sweaty. Shout out John Schnepp to get deep in the game and have a great simulation of a football experience, right? So where can you find that? Typically, you would assume that you could find that in franchise, okay? Yeah. So franchise is the first place I always go when I get Madden. Because franchise is actually where NFL 2K5 shined the most. So NFL 2K5 was a great game. It had great gameplay mechanics, a great running system, a great passing system. The mechanics were solid. And the mechanics of football games are fairly unchanged in quite some time, even dating back to 2005. And in 2006, when the first Madden came out without NFL 2K5 that Donovan McNabb was on the cover of, that game was, I think, a disaster. But the game mechanics themselves weren't that bad, even though that's when they tried to introduce that quarterback control thing or QB vision, which was horrible gameplay experience. But in any case, NFL 2K5 gave you probably the most advanced form of a franchise mode that we have ever gotten to this day, which is upsetting that it's been 13 years that, NFL 2K5 came out. And NFL 2K5 allowed you to have a franchise with your friends, like a multiplayer franchise, where you could do in Madden as well. But the things that you can do on NFL 2K5, what made it so special, and it's going to sound so stupid, but what made it so special was that there was a really amazing website. Because remember, NFL 2K5 was called ESPN NFL 2K5.
Yes, because they licensed up 2K licensed with ESPN to and they had the announcers from ESPN doing
yeah. Chris Berman and they had it was the presentation was amazing. Yeah. The halftime show was amazing, and what they also did was that they allowed you to check out your league stats and do trades and do basically everything you can do in the game on the web in a website that looked just like ESPN.com at the time, and you can write stories. I mean, it was amazing. So it took the franchise experience, made it multiplayer, made it online, and on top of that, made it like social on the web so that you can interact on the website. And what we would do, we had something called the X Bowl that we did for like 5 or 6 seasons, within the span of like a year. And at night, you would play the games. You would schedule the games. And during the day, you would be on the website all day trolling, right? You would be on the forum because it had its own little forum. Yeah. And the forum would look like news events. I mean, it was the most sophisticated, beautiful, like ancillary product to a football game ever. And I know this is supposed to be a Madden 19, and I'm lost in NFL 2K5 land. But like, hopefully we can pull up some B-roll of it right now because it was truly astonishing, right? So now you fast forward to Madden 19. And what do you get in Madden 19 franchise? You get the same exact thing you got last year. Okay. Like, I'm trying to think if there's anything different. Oh, there's some few differences. Like, speaking of halftime shows, they have a halftime show. Last year, the halftime show was just you cut to some highlights, and they actually narrated the highlights fairly effectively. Now you have this incredibly boring halftime show where, it's just basically, let's recap the other games that are happening right now. In New York, the Jets and the Steelers are 14-23. Awkward pause because there's no thing there, right? In Cincinnati, the Clevelands face the Browns, and they are winning 15-9. It's like
it's like not smooth at all.
It's not smooth at all, and it's just like it just goes game by game by game by game. And then they play the highlights, and you're like, by the time you get to the second game, you're like, I can't deal with this. Like, hit start and just keep going.
Might as well just throw a ticker up there while you're playing the game.
Yeah, it's just
you
like
can get all that information.
Or focus more on making the halftime highlight experience better, because that's all you want to do is see your game. Take a page out of a game like NBA 2K18, the last one that's come out, even though all those games are basically the same also, but they're really, really good when it comes to the presentation. The halftime show is really intense. But in any case, so in franchise mode, the only real new thing that you get are all presentation things. Like the menu in the game is completely new. You have like this nice little background now where you see your coach and your manager in an office, and the only cool thing now is that there's like a television behind them that takes snapshots of the games that you play and plays them in the television behind them as if he were looking at a game film. And it's kind of cool. It adds a personal touch to it. But, I mean, come on. It's not really that interesting. And the gameplay for Madden, and like I think the Madden gameplay changes from mode to mode, and I know it doesn't factually change, but the way you approach the game is different in mode to mode. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, in franchise, I always do all Madden, don't touch any sliders, so that you can so that you can build a franchise over time, 5-10 seasons, to beat the computer at its best. You know, that when you win it, so when you win a Super Bowl, you're like, okay, I beat all Madden, and that's why I won a Super Bowl. That's how I personally play. So that's very different than when you play online, because online, I believe it's all pro rules, and there's also a lot of hit stick. Like a lot of not hit stick. There's another name for it. Gesture stick or whatever. There's like the sticks play a lot more of a role in competitive online play. You could use them as well, obviously in Madden in a franchise, but online, it's the other 10 players on the field besides the one you're controlling are in all pro setting, not all Madden, because obviously like a human's going to be much better than a computer. So anyway, my point is that there's different approaches to each mode, right? And in franchise, one thing that they have done, and I don't know too much of the details on this, but they've changed the running game somehow. Like, it's not as like back in the old days. If you play Madden, you hike the ball. Let's say you're doing a running play, you give it to your running back, and the running back, you immediately have your finger on the sprint trigger. So I play it on Xbox, so you immediately have the right trigger pressed, and you're trying to run as much as you can, and you're sprinting the whole time. It's like you're always sprinting. This year, it seems like they made it so that they penalize you for sprinting from the beginning, and it makes it very difficult to make cuts. So you're constantly getting tackled behind the line. So now this year, you have to really force yourself to not hit the sprint button and maneuver. And when you're in open field, if you could ever get there, which is not easy, then you hit the sprint button. Running the football in all Madden is not easy. And it's a little bit frustrating because last year you really felt like you could have a very balanced attack. And yeah, some of the cheese plays, as they call them, still work. Some of the pitch outs, some of the draws, some of those plays that worked last year still work, but it's a little tougher. I'm going to give that more time because I get the idea that you shouldn't be sprinting. And I know Le'Veon Bell kind of taught us, be more careful behind the line. And Barry Sanders is more calculated behind the line, and then you sprint. So maybe they're trying to implement a little bit of that, and that's why that mechanic is so different. But the passing is exactly the same, even though I've been getting a lot more into touch passes, lob, and bullet, and really leading the passer or leading the receiver. I've been getting more into actually doing that because I'm a big either bullet or lob. But I've been actually trying to, it's forcing me a little bit to use the touch and to use the leads a little bit more, which is good. So the passing is still solid. The running game, for me, feels like it took a step back in all modes. Now, so that's really all there is to gameplay. And also in defense, the hit stick feels like it's back. And I actually I think the hit stick's always been there, but the hit stick seems to be doing a lot more damage this season than last season. Those are like the big gameplay impressions that that I've seen changed. But to me, the story of this Madden, look, and obviously Madden Ultimate Team, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, is incredible. Madden Ultimate Team is a lot of fun because the cool thing about Madden Ultimate Team is that it gets you beyond where NFL 2K5 got you, where it's like it gives you a really incredible online football experience. So you can build your own teams. You can compete in seasons with other players, and it automatically matches you up. So there's no coordinating like you had to do in NFL 2K5. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with the MUT draft. So it allows you to draft really good players. And it's a single elimination a tournament. You have to pay for these tournaments. You pay tickets, and the tickets cost money, or they cost currency. So it makes it feel like every game. Like I did a MUT draft. I drafted a great team. I had such a good team because they let you pick from, like, you get 3 stars and you can pick one of the stars and it goes for 12 rounds or something. And I had a great team, and I had an incredible first game. I won the first game, and then I lost the second game. And in the second game, when you lose, it hurts. Because, A, it costs money to enter in the tournament. And B, it's just like the competition is very serious, and like the cheesing, like in Madden. One thing that they did improve in gameplay also is that, one of the basic cheat moves online is that if a play works, you just keep going no huddle, because it makes it easier for you to like try to do the same thing again and just keep hammering them. And last year was more difficult, I think, and I could be wrong about this. Maybe somebody will correct me, but I think this year it's a lot easier to pick different formations and different coverages and different focuses while the no huddle is going on, so that the defense is at a less of a disadvantage. So I did like that. So look, Madden Ultimate Team is the exact same thing as it was last year. Literally the exact same thing. The seasons, the MUT draft, the single play, the challenges, the grind, the auction house, all of it is exactly the same. But it's still an incredible feature. I mean, it's a beautiful feature. Now, this is what's frustrating to me about Madden. Because, like, right now my score for Madden, and some of my closest friends that I used to play Madden with all the time have fallen off Madden. And every year I try to get them back in. And they're like, well, is the running fixed? I'm like, yeah, the running's great, man. Like, you'll love it, because I just wanted to play with them, And then even though the running,
they start playing, they're like, nah.
Yeah, and the running's still not fixed. So the fact that I love football, the fact that there's no other options, the fact that it is incredible technology under the hood, I would probably give Madden something like a 7.5. 7.5 pushing maybe 8. And it's been like that for the past 5-6 years. It's been like that really since Madden Ultimate Team went into the leagues. Not the leagues, into the seasons and the draft and stuff like that. It's been pretty much the same exact game. Now, the big addition that came last year is Longshot, okay? And Longshot is basically this like Friday Night Lights, Netflix show where there's like 2 football players, two great friends that grew up in Texas, high school football stars, get on this reality TV show to try to make it in the NFL. And the show is called Longshot, right? And Wade is one of them, and Colt Cruz is the other. And, the first season, I don't want to spoil it if anybody actually wants to go through it, but it's kind of painful, kind of slow. And, but, there's moments in it where you're like, wow, this is really good writing. Or, oh, this is really good, whatever. But having made games in the past at a very high level, understanding how game production works, and understanding how quickly they iterate Madden, I'm telling you right now that they spent 95% of their effort on Madden 19 on the new Longshot. And to me, that's heartbreaking. Because, like, okay, I've seen Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like, what I haven't gotten is the best football simulation that can make people forget about NFL 2K5. And I know a lot of that is nostalgic, right? And, like, nostalgia paralysis, to quote Mark Echo, like, is very real. And even though Madden has been better than NFL 2K5 for maybe 6-7 years already, like clearly better. But you're never going to forget 2K5 because 2K5, at the time it came out, it did it so well that you didn't believe that this was something that you could actually play. It was groundbreaking, right? We haven't had any groundbreaking Maddens. Even though I think Ultimate Team is awesome, Ultimate Team comes from FIFA. Like, that's where it started, like FUT, right? In Madden it's called MUT. But in that's where Ultimate Team really comes from. So it's not like in FIFA it was groundbreaking. And it's awesome in Madden, don't get me wrong. It is awesome in Madden. But come on, guys. And I love you guys. And I appreciate the support and all that stuff. but the game is all about Longshot. Because I know how hard it is to do what they did in Longshot. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
You know, they got actors in there. They got Tom Brady in there. They got like, you know, they got the story with Antonio Brown and all this stuff. And like, it's really intense animation and really emotional. And it's just like, and then you play a little bit of football. You can't skip through the cutscenes. It is, and look, it's engaging. And I have to admit that I almost finished Longshot Season 2 because it is an interesting story. But every second that I was watching that, I was like, why didn't this effort go into franchise? Like, you want to like make people forget about NFL 2K5? Bring back franchise in a real way. Don't give me the same exact franchise you've been giving me forever.
So is Longshot, it's a continuation of last season. So is this like quote unquote season 2 of Longshot on Madden 19?
So it is. Yeah.
It actually, to be honest with you, this got me more interested in Madden because
look, it's very well done. It's very well done.
Because I talked about why, like, I don't pay $60 every year. I buy Madden once in a while just to, you know, get updated rosters and check out what's new. I've never played this, and you know, when we talk on Collider Games, I always tell people, like, you know, as I've gotten older, I'm more into the story stuff and whatever. So this kind of feature to Madden is kind of more interesting to me now.
Okay, great. So make it a different game. Put another team on it. Yeah. You know, like, fine, you can keep it in Madden. Like, I get it. It's interesting, and it broadens the appeal of Madden.
But you want them to do more than that. That you want them to work on the actual fundamentals of the game.
Yeah, work on what we all want. We all want a simulation of NFL Sunday that we can play with our buddies by ourselves, and that we can feel like EA, your mission statement, we're in the game.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not in the game in Longshot. We're in this like, you know, like Hallmark Lifetime version of like this football odyssey that these two young men are going through, which is actually, it's very, very well done. And that's my problem with it, is that it's so well done that it's obvious that you're focusing on that when you're not focusing on the game.
Do you think it's a case of the developers, they're bored with working or tweaking the fundamentals of the game, and that here's something new that they like, they can kind of pour their creativity and their focus into?
Look, maybe, and I would want them to be that, and I would want them to have that kind of autonomy as artists, right? Because that sounds like something that an artist would say, right? Like, oh, I'm bored with the blue period, I want to move to pink. Like that's like what an artist would say. This sounds to me like a direction coming from a lot higher up. We need broader audience. We need, you know, we need to, like, it's a very, you know, it's a cool story. So, but it's like what they're doing with the NFL in general, I think, to get a little bit, you know, to get a little, not political, but to get, you know, to sort of have a take. And I think that the NFL is making a big mistake in softening the game so much. And I think that a lot of it is, like, the story is it's safety. And it's not even the second week of preseason. We've lost like 3 players out for the year already. So obviously, like, the only way to make the game safe is to not have the game. It is a violent game. That's why there's a premium on playing it. That's why there's a premium on getting paid to play it and the compensation for it. It's consensual. These men go into the gridiron knowing what the risks are. And sure, you want to try to minimize those risks as much as possible. But when you minimize those risks at the cost of the quality of the game, and then you fundamentally start changing the game, that's an issue. And everybody's saying it's safety. I don't, to be honest with you, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a controversial take, I don't buy that. Like, I think they're just trying to change the game to make it less violent so that they think that they're going to be able to appeal to a broader audience. And when you're the biggest show on 5 networks, you don't need to appeal to a broader audience. Like, how much more broad do you want to go than football? It's like, don't get like you're being greedy now. Keep the game the way it is, and don't lose your hardcore fan. Because if you're going to lose your hardcore fan, that's when you're going to be like that's when you're going to say, "Uh-oh, what did we just do?"
So you feel like Madden is almost doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. By going into this story mode, that obviously is where I believe 90% of the effort in Madden 19 went into is Longshot. It sacrifices the quality of the game, and the game is the same exact game. It's literally the same exact game with some tweaks to the running system that I actually don't love, some cosmetic changes to the graphics, some cosmetic, a brand new menu, because that's what they do. They'll just give you a brand new menu. Like, this is a totally new menu. Forget everything you know about the old menu. It's a new menu. Go learn a new menu. Thank God this year they didn't change the kicking, because they always love to do that too. They will keep everything the same. They'll change the kicking, the menu, and that's it. And look, Madden this year, again, and I know I sound a little bit, like, not angry, but a little disappointed, and I'm not. I love the game. It's a great, beautiful game. It's not anywhere near what it could be. I still think the best football game that's come on in the past maybe 2-3 years is 2M whenever it came out. Since it came out, 2MD football on the HTC Vive, made by a dude in his basement, is the best football game out there because it's groundbreaking. It's trying to do new things that are like not doing new things that you've never seen before. It's trying to do new things to immerse you deeper into the football experience. That's what we want games for. Games are there to mediate reality. Like, I want to mediate reality playing football. I don't want to mediate reality being an orphaned kid trying to make it in Texas playing football, and I have to give up on my football dreams to go coach my little high school team. Like, what? Like, okay, that's cool, dude. Like, I like it. Make it a web series. Like, have some fun with it. But, like, this is what Madden has become. It's become Longshot, because Madden, the game, is the same exact game. And look, all the competitors out there that play it, they're going to be happy because it's the same exact game. So they'll be able to still compete at the same level. So anyway.
I mean, that's some of the criticisms of something like Call of Duty as well, is that, they want to keep it fairly similar to what it was before, do a little tweaks here and there, so that the people who already love the game, that keep buying the game every year, won't get so, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to take any big chances, so it's not going to rock the boat in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, it's a little disappointing because, look, maybe my dream is that, Madden, somebody at Madden, if anybody at Madden is listening to this, I plead with you, as somebody who's played every single game, as somebody who loves Tiburon, and a little known fact, before I started working at Rockstar, I almost got a job at Tiburon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back in the old days. Like, buy a Vive, play 2MD football, look at a game that costs a fraction, I'm talking 0.001% of what your game costs, and look and be honest with yourself, okay? Be intellectually honest with yourself and admit that it's a better game than what you did, because it's more closely related to the goal of simulating and mediating football reality, okay? And yeah, it doesn't have the graphics, it doesn't have all these other things which you can give it, but it's got the evolution of the simulation. That's what football is. It's like, I remember my first football game that I ever played, and I loved it, was called Network Football on the Atari 2600. That was horizontal and actually had a 100-yard field that scrolled. So that was a huge evolutionary change in simulating the game. And it did another thing that was incredible. This is the 2600, mind you. You had 4 players, and as the quarterback, you went up and down the line, and you told them what to do. If you press forward, they went for a pass. If you press backwards, they blocked. If you went up, they blocked up. If you went down, they blocked down. So you could pretty simply, like almost like flag football, like you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. You had to tell every player what to do. And some beautiful games came out of that. I mean, I had some amazing games with my brother playing network football. incredible, right? So, but my point is that took a step forward. After network football, the next game that I remember playing where I was like, okay, this is a game changer, was a Walter Payton football on the Sega Master System. And then after Walter Payton football, to me, the game that really started pushing the simulation aspect of it, which I think is the game that not a lot of people talk about, but might be the most influential, is a game called TV Sports Football by Cinemaware on the Commodore 64. That was the first one that started giving you a television presentation, right? And not to get too crazy here, but the point is that every game is trying to get you closer to that mediated reality. Yeah. And in Madden, it's halted. It's halted for years now, since MUT came out, because MUT is the biggest innovation that it's made, and it's just giving you Longshot. Like, okay, dude, I don't like. It's not as good as Friday Night Lights, and it's detracting from friggin' Madden. So it's like, please, if you guys are listening, and I know maybe one of you will listen ever, if that, please buy 2MD Football and look how some young man in the middle of nowhere, God, probably nobody even knows who he is. Okay, like Satoshi Nakamoto style. Build a football game in his basement that's better than yours. Like, let that sink in. Even though, for the record, I would still give Madden like a 7.58. It's still a cool game.
Well, yeah, it's something that it's built on something that's familiar that people love. It's just that they're not innovating to try and make it to that kind of trying to achieve perfection.
Amen. Amen. So look, did we cover all of it?
I mean, I think we covered more the philosophy behind.
Yeah, which is all that matters. I mean, look,
the philosophy, not the the intricate details of this menu and that menu or this and that. We covered the philosophy of why you think, while still a good game, it ultimately falls short of what you perceive to be, a perfect football game.
Yeah, or at least the next step.
Yes.
Like when it went from network football to Walter Payton football to TV Sports Football to then one called Pro Football. It was won by Dynamix, which is a company that was actually owned by Sierra, Sierra Online.
Yeah, I remember Sierra.
Yeah, and Dynamix was like one of their offshoot companies. They had an incredible football game. It's probably still one of the most awesome football games ever made. And that one was called Front Page Sports Football.
I remember that.
Yeah, Front Page Sports Football. The first version of it was incredible. Incredible. You could like change your rosters, you can do trades. It's like it was the first one that like gave you that level of franchise, right? Because TV Sports Football did have franchise, but it didn't have that level of like you couldn't trade, for example, right? Front Page Sports Football. Then and anyway, now I'm getting way too deep into because I'm obsessed. Yeah. Like you said it best. That quest for the perfect football game is Madden 19 going to be discussed. Like when you tell the story of the perfect football game, like there's very few Maddens that will ever even be mentioned in that story.
In kind of the evolution or steps towards that.
Yeah, the only one that might be mentioned will probably be 2006 because that's the first one that they got the exclusive license. And then look, Madden Ultimate Team is awesome. And if you love football and you love playing online and you love that competitive spirit, Madden Ultimate Team is the only way to go. It is incredible. But, okay, so then go deeper on that. Give me some new things on Madden Ultimate Team. Give me a website. For the love of, blank, let me see my stats. It doesn't track your stats in Madden Ultimate Team. So, like, you can't geek out on your career. You know what I mean? It lets you know how many games you've won, how many touchdowns you've scored, and stuff like that. But it doesn't give you player stats. Like, anyway, look, the Longshot story has been told. Leave it or make another game for it. But, like, please, 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 you have to iterate franchise mode and Madden Ultimate Team. You got to focus more on that. So, yeah.
All right, so there you have it. That's Marc's review of Madden 19.
Yeah, look, buy it because like it's great. It's a great game. Buy it, but
you just want to see more.
I want to see more. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/collidergames. We'll have more reviews like this, our weekly podcast, tons of news, reviews, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll see you guys next time.